My brothers and sisters, I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome to Lomax Temple, where we are taking ministry to the max by reaching up, reaching out, and reaching in. I am here tonight with my friend Chris Battle, who is the pastor of the Underground Church and the president of Battlefield Farms. And he's coming tonight. We're going to have a little discussion. We want to change things up. We're having a little discussion about what it means to have food disparities in the inner city, food deserts. And he's going to give us some strategies, and he's going to talk to us, and we're going to need your interaction. So I'm asking you to get some questions together. How can we fight food disparities in the inner city? And I wanted to invite him. He's an old friend of mine. I want him to come and talk to us about all the things that we can do to help fight this poverty and this hunger that we have in the inner city. We have a video queued up, and I want you just to look at it, and then after that we'll come back and we'll start our conversation.
Food deserts, you know what they are? They're a place where there's a long distance between people and healthy food options. Officials in Knox County and the health department say that a little more than 10% in our county are more than a half-mile away from the nearest grocery store where they can get healthy food, fresh food. For most people, that's not a big deal, a half mile, but if you don't have a car, every foot, every yard makes a pretty big difference. Take, for instance, 5 Points neighborhood in Knoxville. Some areas there are 3 miles away from a grocery store. Turns out to be the Kroger on Broadway. And East Knoxville Church is trying to make up the distance now. Here's our Amanda Ferguson.
Got watermelon going here. Makes my blood flow. It's my heart. I love people, and I love working in the garden myself.
Tabernacle Baptist Church now has a community garden. As the church's pastor for 10 years, Chris Battle is now making sure his community has full bellies.
It's a problem of availability as well as accessibility. And so since this area is considered a food desert, we decided we wanted to do something about it. So we developed this community garden here.
There's 16 plots in this garden where people are growing their own fruits and vegetables. And it's not just for church members.
We have people of faith, people who are not of faith, people of different faiths, you know, which is what the community is about.
There's also this. They call this basket of food the gleaning fence. Food for anyone. Nutritionists say this type of service makes a big difference.
Community gardens are a huge step towards reducing those food deserts because of the fact that they offer accessibility to affordable and nutritious food to those that are in the area. And you don't have to have a car, and you don't have to go a far way.
And it's cheap. $10 for your own plot to grow what you want. To grab from the gleaning fence is free. Pastor Chris hopes this expands.
I believe God places churches in communities for particular reasons to serve that community. And since that's a pressing problem in our area, this is the avenue that we took to get it done.
In Knoxville, Amanda Ferguson, WVLT News.
All right, we're back. Before we get started, let's just have a word of prayer, because, you know, this is Bible study and this is a church setting. So we just want to have a moment of prayer. So if you would just pray with me. Father, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this hour that we will talk about ministry, what ministry looks like in the city. I pray, God, that you would transform us, renew us, help us to see things in a different way, in a different light, that we will minister to your people in ways that we haven't before. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for my friend for coming and sharing with us from his ministry what he does. And I pray that you bless our time together in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So, Chris, I just want to, you know, man, I'm glad you're here, bro. And,
Good to be here.
Yeah, just give us a breakdown, man, of what you're doing, how Battlefield Farms is going and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, tell us about it.
Well, so Battlefield Farm was, I don't know how it just kind of fell into my lap.
Okay.
I'd always done raised beds, had small gardens, you know. My grandfather had a garden. I remember as a little kid, he would be out there tilling the ground, and I'd be walking behind him in that, you know, soft soil. And that was really my first remembrance of doing anything gardening. I had two of my great grandfathers had 200 or 300 acres, and they were farmers. But I always had a little garden and everything. So when I was at Tabernacle, we had a plot of land. And I said, man, we need to do something with this plot of land. It's just sitting there vacant. And so I said, let's start a community garden.
I remember that.
And so we had like 16 plots. I think they were 10 by 17. And I got to realizing about this whole thing about food desert and food disparity, and started doing a little research on it. And the USDA says that there are two things that may qualify for a food desert. One, when 20% of your community lives beneath the poverty level.
Okay.
Two, if 1/3 of your community is more than a mile away from a fresh market or grocery store.
Wow. Okay.
So I started doing some configurating. Okay.
Configurating. I like it.
Yeah, I started doing some
Started doing a
configurating,
little configurating.
and
Okay.
and realized that where we were located, we were definitely in a food desert.
Okay.
So there's like 7 stores, I guess, 7 grocery stores, if you would, around 37915 zip code.
Okay.
You got 3 Krogers, you got a Save-A-Lot, Publix, Food City, and I'll consider Walmart a
Okay.
grocery store.
Okay.
So if you're more than 1 mile away, 1/3 of the community is more than 1 mile away from a grocery store, you're considered a food desert.
Okay.
So the Save-A-Lot from where the church is located was 2.5 miles. Kroger on Broadway is 2.7 miles. Kroger on Asheville was 2.8 miles. Kroger on Chapman, 3.7 miles. Food City on Western, 3.3 miles. Publix on campus is 4.2. Walmart in Easttown is 5 miles away.
Wow. So every place was more than 2 miles away.
Yeah, every
Yeah,
place.
mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we like quadruple food desert.
So
you know.
definitely in a food desert. And that's
Definitely
in the
a
middle,
food desert, right.
middle of
So-
Walter P. Taylor
Right.
Homes, right
So
there.
37915 has no grocery store.
Wow.
There's
And
no
all those
grocery
people
store.
live in that neighborhood.
There's no grocery store in 37915. And your zip code should not determine your accessibility to fresh fruits and vegetables.
It shouldn't.
There's an unverified statistic that 70% of the community is doing their grocery shopping at the dollar store.
Wow.
Okay.
They don't have produce last time
They're
I
not,
checked.
they're not produce. Now you can get some ramen noodles and some
chips.
and some chips and some cheese doodles,
But you
you
can't-
can't get an apple. And sure enough, can't get no collard greens.
Wow. Ain't
So
that something?
so what we're literally seeing is people dying of diseases, curable diseases, just because of diet. Because if I'm eating all this processed food, I'm eating all this stuff high in sugar, I'm gonna be obese.
High in salt.
High in salt. Obesity leads to heart disease, sugar diabetes, and everything else.
All
we
of
got. All that. That concerned me. I'm like, this might be fixable.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we started the community garden. I reached out to a few pastor friends of mine.
Okay.
I only got 1 or 2.
One or two.
And you suspect.
Well, I hope I'm off the suspect list tonight.
And they said they would do it too. So a couple of them did it. Matter of fact, they were both Methodists.
Ain't that something?
Ain't that something? Mm-hmm. And
don't say
and so they both did it. And then and this year we had Stop and Go.
Oh,
doing
yeah,
one.
yeah.
They're doing
Okay,
one too.
okay, that's good.
So I'm like, man, I still don't think this is enough.
Okay.
You know. So I reached out to Nourish Knoxville. Nourish Knoxville runs all the farmers markets in Knoxville. I reached out to them. They came by the church. I told them, I said, hey, I want to get a farmers market started. They said, well, you got some other people in the community who want to do the same thing.
Okay.
I'm like, who? We had Women in Agriculture, Vivian Williams. Had Seed with Stan Johnson.
Yeah, I know Stan.
You had 5 Points Up with Tanisha Baker. I'm like, well, I know all of them. Tanisha goes to my church. You know. So we all got together and we made it happen. And so that's when we created the East Side Sunday Market. So from June through September, from 1 to 4 p.m., once you get out of church,
You go get you some.
go get you some collard greens and what have you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that was our effort, and Doc, it became my passion, you know, just working in the garden and really trying to become an advocate for this thing, because like I said, food, people ought not be denied food.
Right. And that pastor became a ministry.
And the pastor became a ministry.
Ain't that something?
And so one of the farmers there was Abby Field. Abby Field Was right over there by the Standard Knitting Mill.
Okay. I know
Okay.
what that is.
It was 2 acres, a 2-acre urban farm. It had been going 5 or 6 years. The young lady that was running it left, and they needed somebody to run it. And for some reason, I raised my hand.
You raise your hand.
I raised my hand. I don't know why I raised my hand, but I raised my hand.
Passion becomes ministry.
And yeah, and so I took over this farm, and I don't know nothing about farming. I know how to work. I know how to plant a tomato,
Right.
but I don't know how to make produce every week.
That's a little,
It's
little different.
It's
Give
a
a
little
cucumber and a
And,
tomato.
yeah,
a little different.
and when people are looking forward and expecting, but we raised over 700 pounds of food, produce.
'Cause last summer you were giving away food.
Yeah, well,
you were giving away food.
We were giving
every week. You were giving away
we
food.
were. We had made a connection with a farm in Crossville, and that's all they produce is beans. So we had on 3 occasions they gave us 1,200 pounds of green
That's a
beans,
lot of green
butter
beans.
beans, and
Man, that's a lot of
I
green
told people just come on and get it, man. They did it.
And they did, too.
They did. Oh, they did it. Yeah. And so that's what happened. So we got Battlefield. So I changed the name to Battlefield Farm.
Okay.
And and our theme is we're creating community and fighting food disparity.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And so that's how I got. That's how
you
I
got started.
That's how I got started.
So tell me, what do you think is how can you start with fighting food disparities in like Lonsdale? All you have to do is take a look. Here in Lonsdale, we're fighting the same thing.
Yeah.
You look at the numbers. I mean, there's a food city down the street, and then there's a Kroger's and all the same places you got, and they're
Right.
far away.
Yeah.
More than a mile,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah,
definitely
food-
have more. We meet all the qualifications.
Yeah. Food City, I think it's 2.4 miles. I was just GPSing.
So how do we address this in the community? I mean, Lonsdale definitely meets the qualifications. We have a lot of low income families here. We have a few community gardens, but they're not able to feed a whole community. They're smaller. But how do we start this massive effort, man? I mean, what do we do?
I think number one, just having this conversation.
Okay.
I think having the conversation and making people aware that this is a problem.
Okay.
This is a problem. I think also,
How do you change the mindset?
Oh.
I mean, how do you change? I mean, how do you say, get me off chips and put me on?
Yeah. Because see, here's the thing. It's not just about availability and accessibility. It's also about affordability.
That's true.
You know.
Vegetables are more expensive.
If you go to Whole Food,
Man, they'll pull your eyes out.
man, shoot.
They'll pull your eyes out.
And so fresh fruit and vegetables tend to be more expensive.
Yeah.
I refuse to make mine expensive.
Okay.
I just
That's
refuse.
good. That's good.
And I just want people to have access to it. But what I'm learning is that if people have access to it, and if it's affordable,
Right.
they'll eat it. So at the market, we did a survey, and 80% of the people said if it was available
And it was affordable.
and affordable, they'd eat it.
Yeah.
They get it.
So
So number one, I think, is just letting people know that, hey, this is killing us.
So why do you? I mean, what are some of the challenges with trying to change people's mindset? I mean, because the younger kids trying to get the younger kids to get off this high processed food is impossible. The McDonald's, the fast food, the chips, the drinks, the cookies. I mean, how do we retrain? Or how do we go through that process of?
Well, see, I think there's a couple of issues there.
Okay.
Number one is what we call a food swamp. Okay.
Right.
And so with what they say a food swamp is for every healthy food source, or like for every healthy fresh market or grocery store, there's 4 unhealthy ones, or 4 fast foods.
Okay.
Okay.
Unhealthy. Okay. Because you
Yeah,
say unhealthy growth.
Yeah, not unhealthy.
Okay.
Yeah, but so the
Oh, man.
So
Okay.
if you go so from where I was living, to go from my house to my Kroger,
Okay.
I would pass KFC, Captain Jack's. Now, they do make some good chicken wings.
Yeah,
now. Okay, Captain Jack's.
Slow down. Slow down. We're gonna prepare. Okay.
KFC, Captain Jack's,
All right.
Arby's, Little Caesars, McDonald's, Long John Silver's, Pizza Hut, Fez, Red Fez,
Red Fez.
Hardee's, and Buddy's Barbecue.
So
So I'm passing all those places
before I get to a grocery
before I
store.
get to the grocery store.
And it's easier for me to get a dollar burger for my kid
Right.
who's hollering in the back
Right.
than it is for me to pick up something, go home, cook it.
And that dollar kid. So when they see that M, their mind's already boom.
So talk about the convenience, man. Because one
Absolutely.
of our we got a few questions. They say, well, what if you don't know how to cook? I mean,
Well,
how do you
that's a problem.
cooking lessons? I mean, how do we
Can
prepare
people
food?
let me ask before they start asking the questions? Can I, all right.
Yeah, I'm just,
I know. I'm saying. I was gonna say that. They stealing my
They-
thunder.
they- Go ahead. We'll get your
people,
thunder back.
People don't cook anymore.
No.
People don't cook. I mean, you working. You done worked all day.
Yeah.
Got to come home. It's a whole lot easier to go through the drive-through and get something for the kids or for your family
Yeah.
than it is to cook. So time, yeah, absolutely. And they happy, and if they happy, you happy, right? The problem is that happiness is killing us. Somebody said,
Say it again, man. That happiness is what?
happiness is killing us.
Wow.
That convenience is killing us. Somebody said it's not the drive by that's killing us; it's the drive through.
That's a postable moment right
Yeah,
there.
it's the
so
drive.
it's the drive
It's the
through
drive
that's killing
through.
us.
That's killing us. My goal is to get people to start eating at least one home cooked meal once a week.
That's doable.
Yeah, just
That's
once a week.
doable.
Just
That's
once a week.
doable.
That's once a week.
That's doable. That's doable.
And see, if people had tasted my grandmama's greens,
They be eating every
yeah, of course she put lard in them and everything, but
fat back.
Fat
Yeah,
back,
you know what I'm saying? I love it.
But I mean, I think if we could learn how to just to begin to fight this thing, and I mean, I think the severity of not eating healthy, and the short and long term effects of that is literally killing us. We're going to have to do something.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to do something.
We're gonna have to do
you
something.
know.
It's and especially in impoverished neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
It seems like we don't have the access, we don't have the affordability, availability. We can't cook. I mean, there's some real systemic problems, man, facing us.
And that's why one I can't think of her, and I think it's Karen Wilson. She doesn't call it a food desert. She calls it food apartheid.
Wow.
Because these food deserts are usually taking places in areas of color. Yeah. Because what happens is, you got white flight.
Right.
And with white flight, guess who follows them? The businesses.
The business.
Right. So you have the grocery stores leaving. They left here.
Exactly.
They left here. And grocery stores tend to be your anchor stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see.
Yeah, and it was a Kroger's right up the street, and it left, and I'm like, that was the closest. It was the closest grocery store to this community. On a good day, you could probably a mile or maybe a little bit more, but that's closed, and now everything is being pushed further and further out where all the development is.
And so, say you're a single mom with 2 kids with no transportation, you got to catch the bus.
What are you gonna do? What you gonna do?
As if I can go to Kroger. I mean, if I can go to the dollar store right across the street.
Go down to C. McD's down the street.
Or see me, yeah.
Yeah, and get some chips or get some fried food, get something other than.
And I think there's some psychological things too that, particularly for people who are in poverty, that if I'll give my kid cheese dough, that's the way I reward them for what I can't give them.
Wow. So unhealthy foods become
Food becomes a reward system for what I can't give them. I might not be able to give them Jordans, but I can show them some,
I can get a Happy Meal at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Quarter pounder with cheese, fries, and a drink, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Man,
And see, we've been so. Like I say, I think that it's. I really tend to think it's systematic. In Scripture, there's 3 ways that 3 sources of famine.
Okay.
So one, just a drought.
Right.
It don't rain.
Yeah.
Food ain't gonna grow. Right.
Food ain't gonna grow.
Secondly, the Scripture talks about that when the people were disobedient, God would hold back the waters.
Yeah.
Okay, and so So it'd be a God-caused drought, if you would, okay? But the third one, and we see this in Kings, I think it's around chapter 6, with the 4 lepers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the 4 lepers?
Yeah,
outside?
yeah.
Well, that wasn't, that famine was caused because of war. But an enemy had surrounded them and cut off their access to the fresh fruit.
Wow.
You see, so it was systematic. And it's hard for me not to think that these food deserts that our African American communities and communities of color are facing are systematic and structural. You know, there's money in the community.
Yeah.
You think McDonald's would be here
If it wasn't money.
if it wasn't money? You think all these payday lenders would be here if it wasn't money?
You got a word.
You know, there's money here. So how come they're not giving us fresh fruits and vegetables?
That's a good point.
You know, so I think there's some structural
Things we need to address.
some structural things we need to address. But I think if we begin to start providing for our families fresh vegetables, start eating better,
Right.
I think things will change.
I agree.
I just think
I
things
agree.
change.
And we can start the process by, it doesn't cost a lot to grow a garden.
It don't cost a lot, but it's work.
And I know it's work now. I know it's work. Got to be out there in that sun. I know it's work.
Yeah. That's why I go early.
You got to go early.
I go
Get
early.
it in.
By
get it in.
noon, I done put my day in.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The heat ain't no joke.
Now, heat ain't no joke.
The heat ain't no joke.
And I'm too old to be falling out.
That's what them kids is for.
Well, we ain't gonna talk about you.
Yeah, we ain't going to do that tonight. But, so, I want to be intentional about saying, as a church, in a community that's a food desert, what responsibilities should we play? I mean, because ministry goes more than just doing, just coming in, doing Bible study and preaching, or having worship service. But so how can we start being intentional about addressing the food desert? Because if you're not, especially now that schools are closed, there's so many kids that were dependent on schools for food.
Yeah.
I mean, there are hungry children in this community I know right now that are probably going to go to bed tonight hungry. If they go to bed, if they don't go to bed hungry, they at least are going to bed malnourished because they're eating foods that are probably not healthy for them.
I think this.
So how do we address that?
I think the pandemic did a couple of things to the church. Number one, it showed us how woefully unprepared we were.
We are very unprepared for this.
it. Secondly, I think it shows us the need to produce our own food. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna put some chickens and some goats in the backyard.
Because you go to Kroger, and the cupboards are bare.
Yes, especially the ones closest.
Yeah,
to this community.
I go, and I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing here. My mama was in town last week, and she makes the best cube steaks, and I was gonna make, and I couldn't find no cube steaks for my mama to cook for me.
So how? So I don't even want to go there.
Okay. So I think number one, again, I say awareness. Just awareness. 2, start growing your own. Okay. Start growing your own food. And it doesn't have to be a huge garden, But you can just start growing the stuff you like. Just tomatoes, collard greens, mustard greens, whatever it is.
Cucumbers,
squash. Just start growing your own. And and maybe begin. You grow what you like, or grow what you can. Your neighbor grow what you can. Listen, a stalk of corn does more than one ear.
That's true.
You share it.
That's true.
You share it. I think again, to start trying to get people to eat at least one healthy meal a week. Because I think one healthy will go to 2, and 2 to go to 3.
And because we used to always eat together as families on Sundays. Sundays was always that one time when we would sit down and you would know you would get a good home cooked healthy meal there. But the busyness, families are so spread out. All this is going on, and then we have this social distancing and we have this coronavirus where people are you know what I'm saying. I'm just So
I think awareness. I think start growing your own. I think and we've talked about this possibly doing even a farmers market here in. On the property.
I want to be a part of that. I really do. I think that it's needed because I've always believed that, and Jesus taught this. He fed the people before he ministered to them. I mean, it's hard to hear the word on the empty stomach, bro. It's hard. I mean, people are hungry physically hungry. Take care of that need before you can minister to them. Because years ago, man, I was at a work down in Chattanooga, and it was a guy who came by all the time. And I said, well, man, won't you come to church? Why don't you come to church? And he was like, man, I go to church to this mission. And he said the mission wouldn't feed them until after they heard the word. So he says, I'm sitting there, my stomach is growling. He said, I can't hear anything because my stomach is growling. And it dawned on me that a lot of times we're trying to give them what we think they need as opposed to giving them what they really need. And if we can address some hunger issues in our communities, it provides an opportunity to minister to people.
Absolutely. And I think that's a wonderful means by reaching out to people, because you definitely that food will bring is a need.
Oh yeah,
and I don't even care. I'm at a point now, I don't even care if you come to my church.
Right.
But I mean, I just hate to see people missing the necessities when they don't have to. So when we had the first community garden at the church, we used the fence, and I think they showed it on the video. We called it the gleaning fence, and it was from the old Jewish concept of not gleaning or harvesting the corners of your field. Oh. It's how Ruth met Boaz. You remember?
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you don't harvest the corners of your field. You leave it for the poor. So we put the fence. The fence was already there. We used it as a trellis. So everything that grew on the fence was free to the public.
That's an awesome idea.
And then what was happening? So I put some baskets out there, and put stuff in there from whatever. And then what happened? And I didn't even ask the people to do this, but those who had plots in the community, they started putting their excess in the baskets. You see, we had so much okra, we didn't know what to do. Put in the basket. Guess what? Next morning it was gone.
I bet. Somebody gonna have some fresh okra.
And people were coming by on a daily to get stuff.
So what you're saying, there is a need.
If
you grow it, they'll come. If you grow it, they'll come.
There was a movie something.
Yeah. If you grow it, they'll come. If you build it, they'll come.
Yeah. So I think again, just awareness. Start growing your own. Farmers markets. I think like that. Just sharing food. And I think in the meantime too, we need to start teaching people how to do this thing, how to plant, when to plant, how to take care of it, when to harvest, how to store it, how to sell it, and how to cook it. I think we need to be teaching people.
So it's more than just growing it.
Yeah.
So it's growing it, it's cooking it, it's the whole thing. I mean, from the ground to the table.
From the ground to the table.
Man, that's
just like you eat pig from the rooter to the tutor, it's from the ground to the table.
Now, look, so we're asking for some questions. So, one person I think you know her, Sister Lowry, Tania said, teaching students trades to work the land, create jobs, teaching businesses, and she also said, teaching people how to cook. I mean, how can we get people going back to cooking? That's a lost art.
Yeah.
I mean, when my grandmother died, she took so many recipes with her, and those recipes are now lost. That's a part of that's a part of history.
Right. And Tania need to learn how to cook anyway. But
I ain't gonna say nothing about that.
I know what's going on.
Yeah. She gonna get you later.
I think there's a joy of being able to plant something, grow it, and then put it on your table.
Man, ain't nothing like that.
Ain't nothing like. I mean, it's more. So what I come up with this little thing now. I get some zucchini.
Okay.
I get some squash. I get red, yellow, green bell peppers. Okay. Sometimes I throw some asparagus in there. Put it in some olive oil, and we used to throw maybe some turkey sausage in there. And on a good day, when I got a little extra change, I throw some shrimp in there too.
Oh man, that sounds good.
And just let it simmer over some olive oil. Kids kill it.
You should have brought that.
I should have, yeah.
You get a little extra change.
A little extra change. But yeah, but I mean, it's a simple recipe.
And it feeds more than just a burger and some fries and a drink.
Right. And you're not gonna be hungry an hour later.
Exactly. We got to. I mean, it's so much more than just this desert. I mean, so some tips on when we start a ministry. what are some other things we probably need? What are some pitfalls we need to look for? How about that?
Pitfalls. There's no guarantee you're gonna have a good harvest.
Okay. Has that come? Has that happened to you?
See,
before?
well, let me tell you, I had a problem with groundhogs. You know, I know
you had a problem with
I know
the
they're
Lord put 'em
God's
there?
creatures. I know that. I believe He put them there, but you know,
we just can't get along.
we
right?
can't get along. You know, so we had to. Well, anyway.
That's what I just imagine sitting out there like Elmer Fudd.
You got predators
with a gun.
You got to know you got to learn how to understand your soil.
Okay. Speaking of soil,
I think there's different zones across the country. So our zone here is like between I think 6A and 7A.
So what's good for this?
Well,
area?
yeah, right. So you can't everything can't grow here.
Yeah. So give me an example.
know.
What's good for here and what's really not good for
Well, definitely okra.
here? Okra's good for here.
I mean, and you can just about grow anything,
Okay.
And then we got a lot of soil clay, but you can fix that.
Okay.
You can
So
fix that.
How do you fix your clay soil?
You can fix it with some mushroom compost, everything. Just mix it all. It takes time, yeah, but you can fix that.
See, I didn't know that. If you had
fix
clay
that.
ground, I thought
Or
that was a wrap.
or you can do a raised bed.
That's true. That's true.
You can do a raised bed, and you can grow a lot in the raised bed.
And you don't have to bend over so far.
And you ain't got to bend over so far if you raise it high enough.
So one of our members asked, when do you plant a crop? What time of year? What's the best?
Well, it matters. So, seed. If you look at the seed package, if you read, it'll tell you it's best to grow this at this time of the year.
Okay.
It'll tell you if it needs a lot of direct sunlight or if it needs a lot of water. They tell you all of that.
Okay.
So it matters what it is. Like you take a collard green.
Right now,
now, just about everything's good.
So I can still plant right now.
Oh yeah. Jeez, yeah.
Okay.
Like collards taste better after frost.
Really?
Yeah. But like this year, we started late because our last frost was like May 15th.
Yeah.
So it's just a month ago, right? So I didn't even put my tomatoes out till May.
Till after
So so it's going to be a minute before we can
You're
get
gonna have
that.
all that in September and October.
Or hopefully July.
Okay.
So I mean, it matters what type of vegetable it is. Like right now, most of the farmers have a lot of leafy vegetables. Your lettuce, greens, stuff like that. They have those now. But you're not gonna see too much. Well, you see a little bit of squash and things like that, but those come later.
Come later.
Yeah.
So right now, what's coming in the fall are the leafies.
The leafy stuff right now,
so
and the leafy will be there.
I don't know why I didn't think, but you can grow collards in the hotter months. Mm-hmm. See, I had no idea. Okay. See, we're learning something. So, and I guess let's see. I got another question. He asked already. When is the best time to plant? Raised beds sounds good, like a great place to start. Teaching students, teaching this next generation coming up.
Yeah.
What are some ways you think we can get them involved? I mean, because they're not really naturally outside people per se.
Yeah. So, so they sold the farm that I was at.
Okay.
They sold the property, and I have a wonderful couple who has allowed me to use. They have 7 acres.
Okay.
And they've allowed me to use 4 of those acres.
That's awesome.
So,
That's a blessing.
and the rent is less than what I was paying for the property.
That's a blessing.
Because I was paying for the property when I was at Abbey Field by the old Standard Knitting Mill. You know how much the rent was? $1 a year.
And now you're paying less than $1.
I'm paying. Yeah, they gave it to me for free. Look at God.
Look at him. Won't he do it?
Oh, won't he? So yeah. So I'm using that property now, but I've purchased another acre on Boyd's Bridge, and we're going to be using that as a teaching farm, and I plan on having that running next year.
You're going to have to get us some information.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, we would love to have. This is a lost art, especially among people of color. We don't. The next generation coming up, they don't do this.
So we're going to be we'll be out there teaching people how to do this thing.
So us old folk can get in there too.
Old folk can get in there too, but we're going to focus on we're going to focus through K through 12.
Okay.
But yeah, so we just bought the property it's 3624 boy, I'm gonna have to call it brick house.
Okay.
3620.
24. Okay. Let us digress. You know, me and you gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's gonna be all right.
So yeah, that's what we plan to do with that too. Because now we do have youth groups who can come out to the farm,
Okay.
and help out there, and we can talk a little bit about what this whole process is about. But yeah, I don't try to fool people. Yes, it is work.
It is work.
It can be very tedious. It can be very difficult, but it's so rewarding. There's something about the earth. We came from the earth.
Yeah.
And there's something about being out there, man. There's even studies going on. So if you walk barefoot in dirt, that it actually does something to your whole body in terms of healing.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of
Just
studies.
something.
Yeah.
So
every now
walking
and then-
barefoot all them years when I was a kid paid off.
Yeah.
Which would have paid off.
Yeah.
I don't do it now.
So every now and then I take my shoes off.
Every now and then.
Every now and then.
But so now we're looking at Lomax. We want to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you've been talking about this off and on. We want to make this farmers market a reality, a ministry. Talk a little bit about ministry. What now? Now that you've fed them, you've given them something. How does this lead in? What ministry opportunities does this lead you?
Let me tell you what happened to me.
Okay.
So when I first moved here in 2008, one of the deacons at the church had given me a tour around the city, right? When I was candidating.
Okay.
And he took me by Oddfellow Cemetery, which was right across the street from Tabernacle. And he was giving me a little history. Most people over there were born in slavery. Cal Johnson's buried over there. Your important black African American pastors and businessmen, they're all buried over there. Right. And I looked at it; it was a mess. Yeah. It was a mess. It was overgrown. And so that weekend that I was here as a candidate, the church interviewed me. And they said, well, what would be some of the things that you would do if they called me as pastor? I said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean that cemetery across the street. That's the first thing we're going to do. I said, because that's an embarrassment. I don't even live here. And that's an embarrassment. So they called me, and a couple months later, we had about 30 of us. We were out there cleaning it up. We're raking, we're mowing, we're chainsawing, we're putting headstones back up. We got bags and bags of debris that we've collected and put it in the corner of the cemetery. This brother pulls up in a pickup truck. He stops me and starts thanking us for what we're doing. He's just going on, giving us all kind of accolades and applause about what we're doing. Man, we just appreciate y'all investing in the community, on. So me being new to I'm like, brother, won't you come join us at the church?
Right.
He looked at me in the eye. And these are the words that he said. And I quote.
Okay, is this suitable for?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm quoting it so it makes it suitable. He said, I ain't coming to your damn church.
Wow.
And I'm like, and he pulled off. And he pulled off. And I asked that, why? I asked that for a decade. It still haunts me. Why was he not going to come to my church?
Right.
Then I learned that 80% of people live in Knoxville don't go to church. And the 20% that do, that are considered regular, go once a month. Folk ain't coming to church no more. So, that's
When you say 80%.
80%.
80% of the people
First Baptist Concord did a study in 2016 of
that's over
church,
400,000 people.
Church attendance in Knoxville, the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Right.
And it ended up that only 20% of Knoxvillians go to church on a regular basis. Roughly 40% have no religious affiliation. The other 40% are what they call done. They're done with church. They love Jesus, hate the church. Okay. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Here's the kicker: regular attendance is considered once a month.
Just once a month.
Just once a month. So folk ain't coming to church no more. And I got to ask this question. I'm like, if folk ain't coming to church, maybe we need to do church differently.
That's true. That's a good idea.
Maybe we need to do church differently. So when I started the community garden, I did something that I hadn't done that I should have done. I started going door to door asking folk if they wanted a plot. I felt this big because I went to a family that lived right next door to the church.
Okay.
I didn't know them. I knocked on the door. They said, "Hey, Pastor Battle."
I'm convicted myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so my point was this: while I was out in the garden we started late. We started in May. Between May and September, I met more people in the garden than I did the 10 years sitting in my office.
So it sounds like what you're saying is to make our ministries grow, as if we want our gardens to grow, we're going to have to get out.
I had to get out.
We have to get out. We have to get to where the two meet.
Listen, people, when I introduce myself to people now, they ask me, "What do you do?" I say, "I'm a farmer." Because when I tell people I'm a pastor, they quit cussing, they hide their liquor, they quit being who they are.
Right.
They cut the conversation off. I tell them I'm a farmer, they start telling me they start telling me what color their thumb is.
Provides opportunity to minister.
And so that
And build relationships.
And I build relationship. And so what we do with our church, our core values, we have 3 core values, that of community, justice, and passion.
Okay.
And our mission statement is we are a community of Christ followers who are actively seeking shalom wherever we are.
Actively seeking
Actively seeking
peace.
shalom,
Yeah,
peace,
peace,
wholeness,
wholeness.
harmony,
Okay.
wherever we are. So passion, we believe that people live out their God-given passion. They're less likely to burn out.
Right.
And 2, passion attracts like passion.
That's true.
See?
That's very true.
See, so the problem is, I think, with our churches, and I don't mean to come here to condemn churches. I just think we need to kind of open our eyes to some things. Is that if I come to your church and say, "Hey, I got a passion for fixing cars. I'm a mechanic and I love fixing cars."
It's a ministry.
It's a ministry. But we'll say, "Well, you can teach a Sunday school class because it doesn't fit our."
Yeah,
It doesn't fit our
what we
agenda.
do. Yeah.
Right. What we try to do is we try to encourage people to live out their passion.
Wow.
Live out their passion. So now that I'm living out my passion as a farmer, the people that have been attracted to me are vegans,
Of course.
vegetarians,
Okay.
people who are concerned about have climate concerns,
Right.
and of course gardeners.
Right.
So now I'm meeting people who don't go to church.
Who you would have never met before
Never met.
if you'd have still been sitting
Come
in
on.
your office.
Come on.
And that ministry is what
And I don't tell them I'm a pastor.
and I think this leads us to something else, man. I mean, ministry is about building relationships.
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, I
yes,
said, it's not the religion. I said it's relationship. If
right.
we cultivate relationship, that's where ministry happens.
Yeah. And I believe if we begin to live our lives in such a way, people will begin to ask us why we do what we do. And that's the opportunity. Doesn't Peter say something like, we always be prepared to give a defense for what you believe?
Exactly.
And I think that's what he's saying. Just live your life. Live out your passion. Live out the Christ in you. You ain't got to go through, knock on some stranger's door and give them the 4 spiritual law.
No.
Just live your life. People will see it. And then eventually they're going to ask you, why do you do what you do? Let me tell you why.
Preach. That's
Because I
preaching.
met a Savior.
Yes.
And
once I have the relationship, then I have an opportunity to speak to people in a way
Absolutely.
that they can receive it.
Absolutely.
And I am not a proponent of just cold knocking on doors. I tell you about experience. I had 4 little young children came to my door last year. I don't know if I was going to church or not, but I was leaving my house, and they had the audacity to knock on my door. They knocked on my door. They threw a tract in my face, say, "Have a good day," and turned and walked away. And as they were walking down my steps and going off my property, and they were going down my driveway, I stopped them. I said, "Now, who's with you?" And they pointed to some people across the street, and I said, let me give you some pointers. First, ask me how I'm doing. Then ask me my name.
Yeah.
And I said, then introduce yourselves. Kind of find out where I am before you just throw a track in my face and say, here, we want to invite you to our church. And I said, it's important that we build relationships. And it was an eye-opening for me because at one point in time, I had been taught that same thing. Well, just knock on the door, hand a track, maybe say a prayer or two, and go on.
The gentleman that said he wasn't coming to my church, I wonder what he heard me say when I asked him to come. I got a feeling this is what he heard. He just wants me to come to his church, sit in his pew, listen to his choir, listen to his sermon so he can get my money. And he wasn't too far off because choir couldn't sing that well at that time. Okay. But anyway.
you know what? You can't come stay with me because I know who's singing in your choir at that time. You can't come stay with me. Okay, so.
But I'm just kidding. But, and I never asked him his name. And what I should have done is invited him to come work and do what he's already voiced interest in. Brother, come get a shovel. Come get a rake. If you ain't got time, can we at least use your pickup to put these garbage bags in and put them in the dumpster over there?
What you say. We have to relearn ministry.
Absolutely.
And this is the setup. The garden is an opportunity to do ministry because it's going to attract people. And at that time, that's when we need to be prepared. And I always say the church has to be prepared for when people come and to minister to people, you have to be prepared. Yeah. I said, the reason God, I really believe it, the reason God doesn't send a lot of people to our churches is because we don't know what to do with them when they get there. We're not prepared to minister to their needs. We're not prepared to deal with them where they are. We want them, like you say, to conform. I want you to sit in my pew. I want you to listen to my choir, listen to my preaching, give me your money, and then go to your house and then come back again next Sunday, do it again. And we're not ministering to people because we're not meeting people.
And I think too, we have a concept of ministry that says you have to behave a certain way and believe a certain way before you can belong.
And that's not what the
and
Bible teaches.
so we put these fences up, and and unless you believe and behave a certain way, you can't get through that fence. No. So I got a friend that lives in Australia, and he's been very influential in my new understanding of ministry. He says in Australia, they don't build fences. The shepherds and cattlemen, they don't build fences for their herds. He said the land is too vast.
Right.
They don't build fences. So I said, well, how do they keep the flocks?
Right.
How do they keep the cattle? How do they keep the herds together? He said they dig a well, and the well is always fresh.
They ain't going nowhere.
They're not gonna stray too far because they know where fresh water is. You see, and I'm saying what I believe the church ought to be. The church ought to be a well of fresh water.
An oasis.
An oasis. And that's what I'm trying to do with my farm. I'm trying to be an oasis in this food desert.
See.
You see?
It's a setup. I tell people it's a setup. It's a setup for ministry. That's everything that we do has to be intentional because it's a setup to do ministry for people who have needs. There are people in this community that may not ever step foot in this church, but they would come to the community garden. Yeah. They would come to the farmer's market, which would be an opportunity for me or someone in the church to minister to them. Yeah. When I minister to them, then I'm doing kingdom assignment work, and they don't ever have to step a foot in the church.
And building the kingdom doesn't, because see, church is more than a building.
It is.
We
found that out now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And see, and I tell folks, I say, I'd rather see a transformed community than a full building.
Any day of the week.
Any day of the week.
Any day of the week.
I'll give my left pinky toe for that one.
My right pinky toe.
Yeah, you can have your right. I need my right.
Because I lean on my right. But just transforming a community, man. That's what we want to do. I mean, the church should be a place that impacts the community in such a way that helps transformation instead of coming in, using up resources, and leaving.
Absolutely.
We kind of talked about that a little bit, how all the intellectual and everything left the community. It's the same thing in the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
We bring our best and our brightest in the church from 11 to 6 or whatever, or I say best and brightest, but we bring all that here, and then it leaves. Yeah. When the doors close, it leaves, and it doesn't stay in the communities where our churches are are at, and and there's no ministry being provided to the people.
Yeah. And so my thing is too, like again, my passion is the farm.
Right.
That might not be everybody else's passion. I get that. I
Right.
don't mind. But everybody got to eat.
Everybody got to eat.
Everybody got to eat.
Everybody got to eat.
And so let me tell you the story. I don't know how much more time we got left.
Just a few minutes. We're good. Go ahead.
So one of the the farmer that I took over, Abbey Field, the farmer had brought some kohlrabi to the market.
Okay. Now, I don't know what kohlrabi is.
Well, that's what I went up to. I said,
like I know.
I said, dear, black folk don't eat kohlrabi. We don't even know what kohlrabi is. Mm-hmm. I come to find out white folk don't know what it is either. But so she got one. She got this kohlrabi.
Okay.
Cut it up, and there was a man that was one of the vendors sold honey.
Okay.
And people, it kind of has a texture of an apple.
Okay.
It's kind of looks like a turnip and apple. But anyway, so people start getting the kohlrabi, dipping it in the honey and eating it.
Okay.
Okay. Guess what? Every week, folk coming back looking for kohlrabi.
Wow.
All because they were exposed to something they'd never been exposed to before. Just because they had a chance to taste it, Now they're coming back looking for kohlrabi. I got one lady getting mad at me because I ain't got no kohlrabi.
That's amazing.
But and my whole thing is if people are exposed to it, if it's accessible, if it's affordable, they'll eat it.
They'll eat it. Well, like I say, I'm telling you, this is a conversation we have to continue. But me and you have been talking about this, and we really want Lomax to be a part of what you're doing. As far as we got to eliminate these food deserts, we got to get people fresh food to eat, and we use that as a means to minister to people.
Absolutely,
it's such a need, man, especially right now. In the midst of all that's going on, we can minister to people and take care of a real need in the community. It's a win-win. And it's just...
I felt the Lord telling me, like, hey, feed my sheep.
You know what I'm saying?
I was all right. All right.
Do you love me?
Yeah,
feed my
sheep.
Yeah, feed my sheep.
Okay. But,
Well, man, brother, you have really been a blessing tonight,
Thank you,
man. You really, I owe you. I owe you. But we're gonna come together, and the next time we come together, we're gonna have some pictures. We're gonna do some things to show people our progress in making this farmers market happen. Really,
we can. Really. I think we can make it happen.
I think we can. I really do. I think we can. So I'm excited. If anybody's out there, if you want to be a part of this farmers market, we're coming up. We're gonna have some plans coming up soon. We're gonna make this thing happen this summer. My friend here, we've been talking about this for years, and I'm grateful that he decided to come back. He's laid some gems, and he's ignited my passion about what ministry really is, and it's really about the people and taking care of their needs. So, man, any closing words, man?
Well, I would love to. I'd love to invite the community to come out to to our farmers market,
Okay.
Eastside Sunday Market. It meets at Walter Hardy Park.
Okay.
Every Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. It's a small one, but we're intimate. Okay.
So this Sunday you'll be there.
Every Sunday from 1 to 4, and we go from June through September.
Do I get a discount? Do I get a discount?
Anyway, 1 through 4, June through September. And if you like to volunteer at Battlefield Farm, just contact me at Battlefield Farm Battlefield Farm 1 at gmail.com.
And we'll post your stuff up.
Yeah,
we'll put it up there. We'll post it up there. So we'll post your contact information
Cool.
and information about Battlefield Farm. But we'll tag them in the Facebook page. But man, again, I'm grateful, brother.
Thank you.
I am grateful, man. This has been awesome. And we'll continue to minister together. And whenever you need us over here in Lomax, all you gotta do is pick up the phone and call.
I'll do that.
My brothers and sisters, again, thank you for being a part of what's going on. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing to you. As we keep going, doing ministry, taking ministry to the max, we want you to be a part of that. Again, thank you so much for being a part. Until we see you again, take care, good night, be blessed.
God bless you.
God
Shalom.
bless.